Charles was an accomplished teacher. He started his early career as far back as 1982. I'm sure such students will confirm that. After his A-levels, he taught mathematics in St. Joseph College, Sussex, for 1 year before leaving Cameroon for further studies in England. In pursuit of his path, he trained for himself in St. Joseph College, Sussex. He taught accountancy in the University of Aberdeen, Scotland, from 1992 to 2006, where he obtained the rank of a senior lecturer. He moved from Aberdeen to the University of Westminster, London, where he was a reader, also known as assistant professor. He taught accountancy at the University of Westminster until his retirement in 2020. Although his rich and fulfilling career as a teacher, lecturer, and reader, Charles molded hundreds of young minds and left an indelible mark in their lives, for which these former students have forever remained grateful to him. Some of his greatest achievements include, but not limited to, contributing his expertise in revising the problematic English translation of Ohada law, supervising several PhD dissertations, and publishing more than 30 scientific papers in several international reputable scientific journals. Charles was an honest, loving, affectionate, considerate and affable brother, uncle, and friend. In fact, he was a kind soul who was always there for his immediate and extended family. His easygoing, cheerful, and forgiving nature was second to none. To say that he will be missed is an understatement. For his untimely demise from a brief illness on 9 January 2023 has left a vacuum which will never be filled in the lives of his loved ones. The only consolation is in faith gained through Christian teaching that there is life and resurrection after death. Hence, death is not the end. Charles had to live because his time had come. Although his body has left this world to be with his parents and brothers who preceded him in the inevitable journey to eternity, his spirit and good memories has created while on earth will forever be cherished. Thank you.
Thank you, sister. Fortunately, some of us, or some people have never been in that situation, but it's never an easy scenario to stand and, elaborate your brother's life that detail. What's probably left them is an indelible mark. But she also mentioned that there were some special memories, and those memories is what the family really relies on that. And they will also need your prayers and support, ladies and gentlemen, because the journey we are starting now is only beginning for them. There is a long road ahead. Let's not forget that Charles is still here with us, physically in England, and his mortal remains will have to be transported to Cameroon. There are arrangements that have to be made, and the journey to get to that, your conversation changes, your contacts, the people you call are different from the people you talk to on a daily basis. You start talking about morticians, about funeral directors, about herbs, about cargo section in Cameroon. A very, very terrible experience. I've been there once, and I don't pray out on any of my enemies to ever go through it. But all I'm asking is, as we leave this place, let's not forget what we've come here for. We've come here and not, I hate what celebrate when someone's so young. And remember our brother. But as we go back, let's remember the family, because the moral support, financial is nothing. The moral support, your prayers, your thoughts, your positive energy is what is going to channel these people, have a successful rest in peace, or successful rest for Charles in Cameroon. So it's absolutely important that we bear that in mind, that we have to walk that journey with them. It's not just to come and sit here and eat and then say, okay, we've done our job, we've done our part in sending Charles home. No, we haven't, because we still have to continue. To continue in that light of memory and trying to recall the time that Charles spent with some of us here, the various institutions of learning where Charles was. Unfortunately, the only one we haven't got is probably the most famous one, his school in Bangui, his primary school in Bangui. Fortunately, the alumni in Bangui is a bit not existent, I'm there to say. And I'll just call on you to just watch on the screen. I'll make sure I dim this light so we can all get a better view of. That's just someone who enjoyed life, and sometimes, like in everything, give it your best shot so that if it was to go, you know that at the end of the day, you gave it your best shot. Okay. It did say, Olive did say in her reading of the biography that Charles was a teacher. He impacted so many lives, and he did so much. He gave so much back to education. And you will hear later on in the evening where people are going to talk about Charles giving back to Cameroon, giving back to alma maters. And there's one student who was Charles's PhD student. We are not in tribute yet, but because he has to go for kid responsibilities, he has opted to give his tribute before he goes. So I don't quite know him, fortunately. Someone said that, yes, thank you, sir. Yeah, so you want to come up and just let us know your memories of Charles, so that as you go, we'll hang on to those memories and pass them on to the family, so that they know that even though the brother's gone, they've got so many here who are constantly thinking of them and thinking of them. And after this, we're going to have another presentation, this time from Soba, and then there will be another one. Good evening, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. I think I'll start by introducing myself. I'm Dr. Charles Ajuman. I went to Westminster University in 2012. And when I started, Dr. Charles ELAD was my colleague. He was highly respected. Because he had a lot of publications. He became a friend because I was teaching on some of his modules, and you see that he had in-depth knowledge. And then he advised me that, Charles, you can do a PhD. To be honest, I went in just because I wanted to pay my bills. And I hadn't thought of, doing a PhD. And then he said, I'll encourage you to do it. Write a proposal, I'll have a look, and then I'll supervise you. So, in a nutshell, he became my supervisor. And I started by saying that I'm Dr. Charles Ajuman. It was through his supervision. So he was a colleague, he was a friend, and he was my supervisor. And Charles is very thorough. He knows his stuff. I don't know. And he's had a lot of input in some of the global things. For instance, those who know accounting, there is an International Accounting Standard 41, which is on agriculture. Charles had an input in it. And this is global. And I got to know it when he was supervising me. He has a lot of articles. And when I finished, Charles helped, and we had a publication in a 3-star magazine, a journal. And that is not easy to get. Those who are academic will tell you that you don't finish a PhD and have a 3-star publication. Because even the editors, where some of them he had taught, or some of them he had helped. So this was a man of great academic stature, and he was highly respected. And I think that the least I can do today, is to stand here and say that the world has lost one of the great academics. He was a man who was strong, who had knowledge, and above all, he was ready to share. And that is why some of us can stand here and call ourselves doctor. God bless you.
Wow. That is some tribute, isn't it, brother? Thank you, Brother Charles, remembering Charles. To think that someone started as a colleague and then through his motivation and maybe a bit more experience, he asked to supervise your work to the point where you can testify that you're a doctor because Charles met you, Charles pushed you, encouraged you, and supported you to be a doctor. You know, when we come to ceremonies like this, we should use it as a mirror, our mirror. What would someone say if they was to stand here, and God forbid, in the next 100 years, because I know none of you here are going anywhere fast. If they were to stand in 100 years and say, talk about X, what are they going to say? So it's important that when we hear these things, you should start making steps, putting measures in place to make that next step a bit better, so that, one day, if it was to be your kids, it was to be a friend, it was to be a colleague, they'll be saying nice things about you. Not nice things because people die and bound to say nice things about them, but nice things because you deserve them, you merited them. Okay. So our next, sorry, I'm being beckoned outside. Thanks to Mike and Chipley as well for making sure that we have all of this presentation and the nice background music too. That was really good to accompany us. Apart from education, we know the purpose of going to school is eventually getting work. Yes, we've got the two institutions of learning. We couldn't get Glasgow, we couldn't get Westminster, but I'm sure they will send their tribute. Charles then moved on to work, and he's been part and very fundamental within the CAMAC. CAMAC is used to be a football team, but those whose their date of birth is not. CAMAC used to be a football team, but CAMAC in England is the Cameroon Accounting Community, or Accounting Society, or Accounting Association, which Charles was a very avid member. So they've also put a presentation in place, and I'll try again to get that going. The next part of this occasion is, I know we've got some traditional dances, and there are women from Manyu, Sumedian and Kupe-Maninguba who are aging, well, not just women, the men as well, who are aging to show us how they do these things, where we come from. And it's very important that when that time comes, everyone who is a part of that community stand up and support those who are leading it. We're going to call on the verbal tributes now. We've seen the video and the audio ones, and we follow back that same order. So I'm going to call on Big C, representative in the house. Big C, by the way, for those who don't know, is bilingual grammar school in Boya, and you saw they had tons of pictures because that's obviously where Charles spent the bulk of his, let's call it, first cycle. We went to Sase for 2 years and then later on into the UK. So, Big C representatives.
Thank you very much. I cannot say it is a pleasure to talk to you guys today because Charlie is a classmate, and I still feel young, and I find it hard that somebody of my age is no longer with us. But I'm not called upon to put on my medical hat, so I will leave all medical things out of the question. I intend to talk to you guys about Charles as a friend, and I hope I'll be able to do some justice. As you guys must have heard from Charles's sister, Charles finished his primary education in 1975, and on a bright Sunday afternoon, that was in September 1975. I don't know, I see there are a lot of Sobans here, but before you get to Sase, you go through a certain road, and you see some fantastic building on the right. Okay. So on that bright Sunday afternoon in 1975, Professor Charles ELAD preferred to stop in Moliko. Yes. And he entered the gates of a certain school called Bilingual Grammar School. Now, in 1975, that school was also known as Nissi Moliko. I'm sure there are lots of people here who don't understand what it means to be a student of Lycée Moliko. Let me take you a very short history. We say Cameroon is a bilingual country. Lycée Moliko is the epitome of bilingualism. And you had to be of a certain crop to be admitted to Lycée Moliko. Charlie was of that crop. Now, on that Sunday, only the boarders were being allowed into school. But on the Monday, we had some other students who joined us. And you had some boys and some very brave girls. Because Lycée Moliko was famously known as a boys' school, but that year was the first year when girls were being admitted to Moliko in Form 1. And our class was the first class to have girls in Form 1. We had some girls admitted to senior classes, but we were the first to have girls in Form 1. And we have a representative in the hall today. Now, after that event, we spent 5 years together with Charlie. And of those 5 years, we moved from one hostel to the next. Now, our hostels have some very interesting names. Maybe if I call a few, some old folks will know. Some of the younger generation will not even know what we're talking about. We have some names like Ahijo, Konja, Muna, Mongoso. Now, these are names of famous Cameroon politicians and government officials, and they gave their names to halls of residence in Moliko. Now, Lycée Moliko was the first government bilingual school in the country. So, those people had to put their stamp somewhere so they could be remembered in posterity. I'm sorry to say, I went to Moliko a few years ago and I cried because those structures are no longer there. Now, let's come to something a bit more serious. You know, 12-year-olds, they get involved in so many dodgy things. You know, Charlie was never part of that. Some of the dodgy things we got up to in Moliko, people who go to Goya today, they will not know. But the whole of that Moliko used to be a banana plantation. And if you are going towards my 17, it used to be a sugar cane plantation. Now, Moliko students, they will raid the CDC banana plantation. And even after we raided the plantation, Charlie will sit in the dormitories. And he will not join in that nonsense. So because of his attitude and his everything, we call Charlie Ballad. Now, there are so many people here who are English citizens and they know a lot of Oxford dictionary. So they want to go and look at what Ballad is. Ballad is not English. Ballad is French. Now, if you look in Larousse, which is the French equivalent of Oxford, you will find the definition of Ballad to be very, very disturbing. But we in Lycée, we knew Ballad to be a teacher. So we have been calling Charlie teacher from Form 1. So Charlie has always been a teacher. Now, when we get up to adventurous things and we talk to Charlie, because he was never involved, his only response was, "Nah, bad one that." And because of his voice and his attitude, Charlie was also called Bazoo. But interestingly, we knew Charlie to be somebody who loved mathematics so much. He was always having his maths textbook in his hand, his pure maths. We'll go to prep, we are reading biology, history, geography. Charlie is reading maths. Charlie, we are preparing for a biology exam. Charlie is reading maths. And with all this maths interest, I was surprised that Charlie ended up doing accounting. But that is a story for another time. We'll come to that. Now, Charlie went through Lycée, finished his Lycée education. Now, some people, I always like going back to that Lycée, that, you know, I'm really, really attached to that school because it's unique. Charlie went through Lycée. When we say you go through Lycée in our days, it means you went through the bilingual class. Now, bilingual class in Lycée means you come into class, you have a teacher who will teach you history in French, he walks out, another one comes in and he teaches you history in English. The syllabuses are completely different. So it's not like you're translating from one language to the other. So you must know everything in English and French. And Charlie went through that class to get to Form 5. Got his O levels. I don't know what went into his head. He decided to go to some other school. Maybe the people sitting on my left here, they will tell me later on why Charlie decided to go to that school. Now, you guys have heard that Charlie achieved so much academic-wise, teaching other people, mentoring people, and even socially, you know. And as you can see, all of that stemmed from his time in Nissi. He started teaching from Form 1. Okay. So I strongly believe that going to some second-class school sorry about that. No, I think Charlie changed his mind and decided to become an accountant after leaving Nissi. Because Charlie left Cameroon, came to England and studied accounting. Because when he was teaching in that other school, he was teaching maths. And so something must have happened in that time. I'm sorry, I'm a doctor. So I always want to know what happened. Something must have happened in that time that made him decide to become an accountant. And Charlie, like the excellent student he was, like the bright student he was, he still excelled. And believe me, most people who go through Nissi will excel in anything they decide to do. So Charlie excelled. He went through the first degree, did a master's, did a PhD in accounting, and he became a lecturer in accounting. By the time Charlie retired, Charlie was a reader. That is a misnomer. The English people call them readers because they are professors who don't have a chair. If you are in any other country, you'll be called a professor. So Charlie was a professor. We looked for an appropriate translation in other languages. I remember we had that discussion with Charlie. You know, we looked for an appropriate translation of a reader in other languages, and we couldn't find one. Reader is unique to the United Kingdom. Personally, I think a reader in any other situation is equivalent to a full professor. I'm sorry, we equated him to an associate professor because he had no chair. Now, Charlie's excellence is not only limited to his academic work. I think you had someone, Mr. Charles Agib, who mentioned how he mentored me and he decided to become another learned accountant. Now, we saw some pictures there, and we hence made the comment that every other picture is in class. So Charlie was also a socialite. He loved parties. Charlie loved parties. And you will meet Charlie in a party in London at 2 in the morning. You say, Charlie, when are you going home? I say, don't worry. I'm driving back to Aberdeen. Charlie, when are you going to Aberdeen? Tonight. So Charlie would party, leave the party, and drive to Aberdeen. And the same thing, you meet Charlie in Cameroon. Charlie will party, and from some reliable sources I hear there are so many people who will miss work the next day after partying with Charlie the night before. That is the kind of person he is. And if you saw on the Big C slide shot, Charlie has been around Europe partying with his Big C. So, can I get all the Big C members in the hall to stand up, please? Now that is a very selective school, man. There are different generations of Big C members in that group. Even though we are few, but we all integrate vertically. So we all know Charlie, even though some people do not meet Charlie, we say we know him, because we are all socializing. And that's the kind of socialite Charlie was. I'm sorry to say, we will miss Charlie dearly. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Kachi. That was a fantastic tribute, and I think it's painted a picture. But the only thing I can tell you is sometimes when you play away, be very careful with the return, because you've just handed the baton. You've opened, let yourself absolutely loose for Soba to come back now in full force. I want to say, it is irrespective of where Charlie was, the one thing we are proud of as... Okay, Big C, we had your turn, Big C. We know you're not wrong, Joe. The one thing we are proud of Anglophone Cameroonians is the fact that we have these institutions that can actually positively rival each other, right? Irrespective of where Charlie went, he had the best education. We heard of them starting, I didn't even know that, given my age now, I didn't know that Nissi used to operate a boarding system back in them days, and that you could do 2 lessons in either French or English, but then none of them, you know, being in the same syllabus. So that's new, and Charlie was probably one of them. You didn't say, Theo, that you two went in that bilingual class, which means that Charlie was the one that excelled in it, which is great, right? But now you've said you've done your bit. I just want us to hear from Soba. If they've got a representative who wants to give a tribute about our brother. I know Big C, Mr. Shupo, see you shaking your head, you're giving it, passing the baton to the young man, Mr. Ichu, and I know you're going to do it.
Thank you. To the ELAD family and the mourners in the hall, I greet you, good evening. So, before I get into what I plan to say, shots were fired here, right? So, who here knows or doesn't know Hussein Bolt? Everyone knows Hussein Bolt, right? And if you've watched his races, he doesn't come off the starting line the first person. It's the last segment. He accelerates. Right? That's where the winning comes from. So now, add to that phenomenon, if you were listening to your grandfather, what do they always say? It's how you finish, not how you start. So Big C. Late Dr. Charles was intentional. We've heard about how intelligent he was, how considerate, how methodical. Now the only thing this guy can ever do is correct mistakes of the past. So he came to Sase, enough said. Lick the wounds before second round comes. So, if there was ever a scale of how soberly you can be, Dr. Charles was right up there. The reason I say this is because I'm aware of his decision-making process after he left that school. And he had a hard time because he had so many choices. And he decided to go to one school just because that was his calling, right? And that was where his soul was meant to be. And to prove this, after finishing, what did he do? He came back. Because that was his identity. It was an extension of him. And this is why, if there was a scale of how soberly you can be, he was right up there. But that's not all. He was very punctual. If you know sober, he's very punctual. He was impeccably dressed. You will never miss him in any occasion because he stood there. I don't understand why he went to Cameroon or trying to move, because he was as British a man as he can never be. Now, we will miss it, no doubt, because he was also a very active member within the community. If you go to any event, Dr. Charles was there. You would see him the first, he would be interacting with everybody, and I know every gentleman sat here. On the subsequent events we're going to have, we will always look for him, because that's how much his presence meant to us. And I wanted the family to know this, and to know that we appreciated what he did to Sober UK, his contribution, his sort of personality, which radiated every single time you met him. You don't forget an interaction with him. So I will not keep it too long. I meant to call the servants afterwards, so we do our traditional thing, the Big C round too. Thank you.
Before you get into something, those of you guys who know about competitive exams in the UK, before you get into something, you don't just take the common entrance, you take the SASA exam. And that is a combination of not just mathematics, but it's about right. Good. But it's about your contribution. What do you know about the world? What do you want to do? Why? How are you going to achieve it? But above all else, what SASE is, it makes you a leader of men. I am by no means trying to denigrate our high achieving women, because all of you guys are high achieving. But it's a fact. We are in a male dominated nation, and we place our men ahead of our women. And Sasset taught us all of those things that made us leaps, heads above every other institution in Cameroon. That's why we are confident. That's why we are proud. That's why we can stand in front and chat up any girl we want to talk to. That is a success. That's why you find when we have outings, all the Nissi girls, those precious Nissi girls, they all run down to Sasset on visiting Sundays. That's how precious Sasset really was. The guys, honestly, I was in Sasset in 1980. That's the same year Charles came to Sasset. I was in Form 1, he was in Lower C. But Sasset has a tradition to motivate children. You tell people who are around the same generation to do that. So Charles was my teacher in Form 3. The age between Charles and I is 4. And I've got members of my class who can tell you lots about Charles, who can tell you the way he motivated us. I know everyone here has his own perspective of who Charles is. But I personally, I can tell you, he was a guy who was not very associated with violence. Charles would never, you know what it's like. You lift you make noise in class, you get slapped. Charles will never do it. So today, we've lost somebody, we've lost a huge, huge person within our community. I think that's my memory of Charles. I want to call somebody, he doesn't, this was unrehearsed, but he will tell you his memory about Charles in a way, in a very, very funny way. Felix, please join me. And it's unrehearsed. But he will tell you something about Charles, which I think may make you laugh. Felix.
Thank you. My name is Felix Roman. I'm Francis's classmate. I met Francis at the Sasset interview, just to introduce. I met him at the Sasset interview. And I was in Form 1 when Charles was in Lower C. To speak, sorry, I'm taken by surprise. I just need to make one correction about the previous speaker. Our colleague who spoke earlier from Big C is Professor Ngachu, not Dr. Ngachu. The only reason he's not being called professor, as he rightly said, is because he hasn't got a chair. But he's Professor Ngachu. I just thought I'd make that correction. So we went in Form 1 when Charles was in Lower C, and we were very fond of him. Being in Form 1, very fond of Charles. He was very kind to begin with, really kind to the very junior students. And he was somebody that you could always ask for advice, and he would give you good advice. And I remember, despite his glasses, he used to play tennis with us. It's not normal to have Form 1 students playing tennis with Lower C students. But he used to come and join us play tennis at the tennis court behind the St. Paul's dormitory, St. Martin's dormitory. So it just shows you the kind of person that he was. Despite being in Lower C, he would play tennis with Form 1 students. But we were very fortunate because when we were in Form 2, he was in Upper C. And then after this GCE, he came to teach us not just maths, but physics. So he was our maths and our physics teacher. We used to have fun in class, and we used to imitate him. And I'm going to say, I got a few of my classmates here, and this is how with due respect, this is how he used to talk. He used to, for example, no, Philip, you got to solve the maths problem, okay? You got to solve it. And if there is a 90-degree angle, you got to use Pythagoras. But our favorite lesson wasn't just in maths, it was in physics. He was our physics teacher. We had just finished Introduction to Physics, these books that came from Nigeria. And we were now using the O-level physics book in Form 3, where you start learning. I'm not a physicist, I'm not a mathematician, but we learned a lot. And he was inspiring us. In physics, he would say, we were learning about heating. We were learning about metals. And there was something called heat capacity. There was something called change in temperature. There was something called latent heat of vaporization. I haven't forgotten these things, and it's more than 40 years now. And I will tell you, he used to tell us mnemonics on how to remember the physics formula. And I will tell you the two favorite ones that he had. He said, if a metal substance changes temperature, then it needs energy to change that temperature. We remember that. It's more than 40 years now. He also told us that you could have a change of state of a substance without a change in temperature. We remember that. Nana Philip, Fosom Michael, Kome James, Shupo Francis, Enoa Kodifan. Sorry, I'm just calling some Sase names. These are the people in class. And he would say things like, if you have a change in state without a change in temperature, then I have a friend called Malange Lucas. I know somebody. You use that formula. So you use the mass times the latent heat of vaporization. If you have a change in temperature, this is how he inspired us. You use the other one, which is the other one. If you have a change in temperature, you use my beloved friend Bob Charles data. This is more than 40 years, but we still remember because he was one of the few people who inspired us. We had nobody else to inspire us. But the funny one was, if you have a change in temperature and you have a change in the state from liquid to solid or from solid to liquid, you combine the two and you say, Bonbon Felix, that's my name. You use Bon Charles data plus Malange Lucas and you get it right, you get all the marks. Thank you very much.
Guys, I told you this was fun. So remember, when your children study, what do you say? You have all these clever mnemonics. So for heat capacity, M times the specific heat capacity times theta, the change in temperature. That's how you calculate the amount of heat gain in joules. So he was very clever. He said, look, I've got my friend Bon Charles data. So all we do, in England they come up with some clever mnemonics. In Cameroon, we remember Bon Charles data. And if you have ice, all you do, you heat it doesn't change in temperature, then it is the latent heat, it's the hidden heat. You get the mass, you weigh it, and the latent heat of fusion, that's the amount of energy taken. So, Malange Lucas. Right, guys, honestly, I know Felix is there, servants will come. But honestly, I just want to express my condolence, or our condolence on behalf of the entire Silver family to you guys. But we know you grieve. The question is, what is grief? What is that grief? All of you guys are suffering because you love. That's what it is. That's what grief really is. But the good news is, it will get better. And by anchoring the support you guys are having with the community, then that grieving process will become shorter. So the president has asked me to ask you two guys to come forward to do our tribute, and then that will be it. You're just wondering, yeah? Servants, please stand. Servants, I've been asked to ask you guys to stand. What's the correction? It is the best institution in Cameroon, yes. All right. Okay. Right, Franklin.
So guys, quickly, near the Boya Mountain. So 1, 2. Near the Boya Mountain, high above the sea, stands St. Joseph's College, a place for you and me. This year that we learn biology and geometry and chemistry in South Survive the mountain, oh South Survive the sea. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
And I'm going to call on one of their members to come and give his or her tribute, and also talk a bit more about the work that, through that association, Charles has done to pupils and students in Cameroon to foster their education one way or another. Kamak, UK.
And I am the executive chair of the Cameroonian Accountants in the UK, known as Kamak UK. Now, I never thought I would be doing something like this in my tenure in Kamak, but here I am. The MC said I will do chap, chap, chap. There will be no such thing. I will take as much time as I have to. Because if you think about Charles's age, and you think about the time he spent in the accounting and finance profession, it's more than half his age. So I have the floor. Now, I thought hard about the best way to do this. And I've listened to the very eloquent tribute from Dr. Ngachu. I've listened to the slogans, and I appreciate all that has been said. But I also noticed the schoolboy playground football between the two academic institutions. So we are going to take this the next level up. Now, I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to do this in a wishy-washy way. So I've had to take my time with the exec members to actually draft out what we have to say. So, dear owners and family members of Dr. Charles ELAD, and by the way, Charles never wanted us to refer to him as Dr. Charles. He always said, call me Charles. So from now henceforth, I will call him Charles. The sad news of Charles's passing on Monday, the 9th of January 2023 sent shockwaves that rattled through Kamak UK, creating total pandemonium and utter disbelief. We did not see this tsunami coming. The members of Kamak UK are in deep mourning. We have lost one of our finest, one of our own, a great hero, one of the best in the profession. Now, Charles was a founding member of Kamak UK in 2013. He held the position of PRO, Public Relations Officer for Kamak in Cameroon. I initially approached Charles in 2012 with a pulse check about the creation of a professional association in the UK for Cameroonian accountants. He was very supportive, positive, and full of great ideas of what, how, and when we could launch. With his blessing and that of other founding members of CAMAC, CAMAC was launched in 2013. You saw the slideshow pictures. Charles contributed to the development of our constitution, participated in all meetings, took part in CAMAC social gatherings, and provided access to research and reference materials when requested by CAMAC members. Shortly after launching CAMAC, we realized that Charles had great potential beyond our expectations. CAMAC UK decided to establish a presence in Cameroon. Charles was instrumental in creating a solid partnership and collaboration with the Catholic University of Boya, where CAMAC would subsequently offer scholarships for the best performing students in accounting for 2 years, paused due to the deepening crisis in the southwest region. He was an astute advocate for CAMAC UK. We will miss him dearly. He was super excited about CAMAC and its long-term goals. He cared so much about the well-being of CAMAC members. We will miss him dearly. Now, we understand Charles had a successive and extensive career in accounting and finance, spanning over 30 years in England and Scotland. He made his name within the circle. In 2019, he informed us he would be retiring and was planning to spend more time in Cameroon. We know, because he told us so, that he spent time at Westminster Business School, where he contributed to the development of BSc accounting degree. As a reader in accounting and finance, he worked with other professionals on a range of topics, advising on research paper submissions, professional mentoring, supervising PhD students, and undertaking undergraduate and postgraduate teaching. He served as a consultant to a number of international organizations and held competitive research grants from the UK Economic and Social Research Council, ESRC, the French Centre National de la Recherche Scientifique, CNRS, the British Academy, the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants, CIMA, and the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Scotland. His publications include a book on accounting for sustainability and articles in European Accounting Review, Management Accounting Research, Critical Perspectives on Accounting, the International Journal of Accounting Socio-Economic Review, among others. Charles was simply remarkable and had influence and academic excellence in and out of the profession. He had a genuine passion for accounting concepts, new development theories, and applications of them. He was a knowledgeable and intelligent accounting finance professor, soft-spoken, I can testify to that. Great listener and widely read. His untimely death created a vacuum, especially amongst our community and his immediate family and friends. We will miss him dearly. Now to his family, we are deeply sorry for the huge loss that you have experienced. We extend our heartfelt condolences and comfort at this time of grief. CAMAC appreciates the contributions from Charles ELAD, who was a great asset to us. We wish him safe journey to Cameroon, and may he be received and guided always by the heavenly angels. We will miss him dearly. Adieu, Charles ELAD. Adieu, Professor Charles ELAD. May your gentle soul rest in perfect peace. instrumental in what I have to share. But whilst that is loading, I want to say a few words on my own about Charles. I've known Charles for more than 30 years, because when I returned to the UK in 1991, I lived with Porsche's and Charles in a flat in Catford. And that flat was owned by Charles's elder brother, who is now of late. So Charles had one room, and then myself and the Porsche's, we were in another room. So Charles asked me one day, said, Cynthia, now you're in the UK, what do you want to do? And I said to him, Charles, I have been instructed by my dear mama that I have to study accounting, but I have to wait for 3 years until I can get a grant. In that time, I'm going to do something else. So Charles took upon himself to teach me, Cynthia Nano, accounting at home. He will bring out Frank Woods. My learned colleagues here will remember Frank Woods, version 1 and 2. And he would teach me at home. And he would teach and teach and teach and said, do you understand? I said, yes. He said, okay, so can you explain to me debit and credit? And I'll faff around and say, so you really don't understand. And that means another 2 hours of lectures. So I feel really sad to stand here after knowing Charles for over 30 years to do this. This is very, very difficult. It may not look that way, but it is very, very difficult. I'm really stressed out since Apple told me, my husband told me that check your WhatsApp message. Charles has just passed. I've been very stressed about it. But anyway, we are where we are. That is life. We are born, we live through it, and then suddenly we just disappear. But that's that. Now, I talked about Charles and his collaboration with the Catholic University in Boya. We were offering sponsorships and awards to the best performing students in the Catholic University of Boya. And this lady that you see over there, there are 2 ladies there. The youngest of them 2 is a lady called Sonita. If she's a relative, I apologize for data privacy and all that stuff. But Sonita was one of the recipients of a Kamak Award in 2017. So I had arrived, I'd missed the graduation, I'd arrived slightly later, and Sonita came to see me, and that was the certificate she brought with her. So she had the highest scores in accounting degree at Catholic University. And this is all due to Charles. Charles did all the negotiations with, I think it was I can't remember his name now, but Charles did all the negotiations there, back and forth on email, and I just came in at the tail end of it, and he said, it's all done, it's all set up. So Sonita is the award recipient back in 2017. I think the next picture is just about, it's just Sonita. So that's a product of Charles' efforts in Cameroon and his collaboration with Cameroon. So on that note, I want to say thank you for listening. And you know, we are academicians, we deal with numbers every day, but we're also human beings. And things like this really can take us, you know, quite a few steps back. I don't know if anybody else wants to say something, but we also have a small package for the family. And I'm not going to say anything about that. You heard my voice quite a bit. I'm going to hand over to the Secretary General for Kamak, Joseph Tabot, and our able Secretary, Irene Jema Shoko.
This is more